What is up, awesome people of the internet, and welcome to week 16 of women's college basketball. We got some polls to talk about because who doesn't want to talk about polls? We're reached a point in the season where these polls are actually starting to matter, and we're actually starting to see a little bit less movement up or down because we only got a couple weeks left until the end of the season. Then comes tournament play for conferences. Then comes the regular NCAA tournament, and these teams are all vying for good seeding. The top 25 teams are all vying for good seeding in the NCAA tournament, and we'll see what happens. We will see what happens, but it's getting to the point where this actually matters. And so let's take a look at the top 25 from top to bottom from the AP. It was released on February the 19th. All right, so of course, looking at the number one spot, makes sense that it is still the South Carolina Gamecocks. Why? Well, because they're still undefeated. They're still the lone undefeated team, and they are just continuing to do their thing. Though I will say that there have been a couple games in SEC play that has made South Carolina look a little suspect. Yes, they sure came up with the win. However, it is something to sort of pay attention to in the future because yes, we know that South Carolina is a team that can score a lot of points. However, there have been certain games during the season where it looked like the other team was going to be able to stop them. So, for example, if you look at last week's game versus Georgia, I thought that Georgia did a really, really good job. Basically, all three quarters, and then in the fourth quarter, they kind of fell apart a little bit. It does show the depth of South Carolina, but if I'm looking at South Carolina, I'm like, I wonder how long this undefeated thing is going to stay around. Maybe it goes away in conference tournament play because these SEC teams are no slouch. Yes, Georgia is nowhere near close to being ranked, but they gave South Carolina a run for their money, and at one point it looked like South Carolina was going to lose. Of course, they didn't because Dawn Staley got her team to show up when it mattered the most, and they ended up winning that game 70-56. But actually watching that game, it was a lot closer than the final score leads on. Also, the South Carolina versus Tennessee game was also super close throughout. So South Carolina is great. They're going to continue to be great, but we may see some stuff in the future because just the way some of those other games have gone. Yes, they got the dub, but it was the way they got it that I think is a little bit of a cause for concern, but we'll see what happens from here. Right now, South Carolina still is your number one team. Even if they lost the game, they would still be the number one team in the country because they're just so good and they have a lot of depth on their team. Next up, we have Ohio State at number 2. Ohio State at number 2. They are 22-3 on the season, and that makes sense because Ohio State is good. For the last couple weeks, I've been telling y'all, watch out for Ohio State. They're a very, very good team. Yes, they are in the Big Ten, and when we think about the Big Ten, we think about Iowa a lot, and Iowa is also a very, very good team. We'll get to them in a sec, but to me, Ohio State has actually leveled up to what we thought they could be. They didn't start off the season like that hot, but they're looking so good in Big Ten play, and the Big Ten is a pretty tough league when it comes to competition. Of course, they're not the Pac-12, but the Big Ten is no slouch, and so Ohio State, has just been doing a thing. Well-deserved number 2 spot. In number 3 spot, we have Stanford, which again makes sense. Stanford is 23-3 on the season. They're just rocking and rolling. They have a National Player of the Year contender in Cameron Brink on their team, and Cameron is just if you're watching Cameron play, you can see she's having one of her best seasons ever, if not her best season ever, and she really should be in contention for the Player of the Year trophy. And it's not just Cameron Brink. It's this girl named Kiki Iraofen who also has been balling. She should be the most improved player of the year. She has been looking very, very good. For number 4, we have Iowa. The Iowa Hawkeyes. They 23-3 on the season. They just look good. You know, they're a team. They're a team that runs on the power of Caitlin Clark, and they look great. But a similar thing to South Carolina, I've seen some games that they won that there's some cracks a little bit that are showing in terms of not South Carolina's issue, but in terms of Iowa's issue defensively. Can they get defensive stops and not just rely on scoring a boatload of points to make up for what they lack on defense? Now that's a big question. You know, but this team is just going to keep running at the speed of Caitlin, and Caitlin's going to continue to be great. So we'll probably won't see them drop that far from the top 6. There may be some movement depending on how their wins and losses go for the rest of the season. Though they should probably win most of their upcoming games, besides the game against Ohio State. I do think Ohio State pulls that one out at the end of the season. But yeah, Iowa's continuing to be Iowa, and they're still very, very good. We have Texas up next at number 5. Texas is 24-3 on the season. This Texas team has just blown past my my thoughts about them. When Rory Harmon, their starting point guard, went down, I thought, yeah, sure, they'll be still top 25, but they'll drop severely because Madison Booker, yes, she can play point guard, but I didn't think at a college level she was ready to play point guard. But clearly, this girl, Madison Booker, is ready. And I know we talk a lot about Juju Watkins and Hannah Hidalgo, and very well deserved. But y'all, Madison Booker is very, very good. And Vic Schaefer is making it happen in Texas. He is making it happen. So yeah, Texas rounding out the top 5. Then we have North Carolina State. North Carolina State is looking pretty good as well. Yeah, I mean, what can you say? What can you say with Isaiah James, Sanaya Rivers? Yes, they've had some very close games, but they have been able to grit some of those out of late. And yeah, they're looking like a fun team. All right, so scrolling on down, we got USC, who moved up 3 spots from last week. USC is continuing to again move at the speed of Juju Watkins, and they're able to gut out wins. They had a pretty huge win this past weekend over Oregon State, and I think that is the one that sort of like helped to catapult them up higher. They've also just had some big games this season in terms of like beating the top dogs of the Pac-12. And we got Virginia Tech, the Virginia Tech Hokies, at number 8. They have moved up 4 spots from last week. And yeah, Virginia Tech is Virginia Tech. They're Georgia Amore and Elizabeth Kitley are very, very good. Yeah, very, very good. So they are 22-4 on the season in the ACC, which is a very, very, very tough place to play. We also have at number 9, Oregon State. They're 21-4 on the season. And Oregon State is really, really good. Yes, they did have that loss to USC. However, they had a huge win against UCLA with a down to the wire game, buzzer beater game. And it was Talia von Oelhoffen, who just is very good. Like she is very, 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 very good. Oregon State, yes, they had that bad loss to USC, but like overall, they're a good team. That if you're on another team, you're probably worried about possibly facing Oregon State because they're tough. They're a tough team. We have K-State at number 10. K-State's continued to do their thing. They are 22-4 on the season, rounding out the top 10. They did go down 3 spots from last week. We have Colorado, who also went down 3 spots from last week. They are 20-5 on the season. UCLA is number 12. They are also 20-5 on the season. Those drops were due to losses that the teams had last week. With UCLA, as I mentioned earlier, losing to Oregon State. They lost to them this past Friday. Then we have LSU at number 13. They have not moved from the last week. They are 21-4 on the season, and they're probably going to stay where they are. Yes, they're likely going to win the rest of their games going forward, and regular season games, I should say. And because of the level of competition, yes, the SEC is a tough league, but I don't think the wins that they will have coming up will actually help their seeding. So they'll likely stay in that 13 spot unless they make some noise and beat South Carolina in the NCAA tournament. Now then, they'll move up, but until then, they'll probably stay in that 13 spot. We have Indiana, who are also unmoved from week to week. They are in the 14th spot with a record of 21-3. And yeah, Indiana's a very good team. They are. They're very fundamentally sound team. They're a competitive team. So they'll likely kind of stay where they are. When it comes to the Big Ten, it really is, in my opinion, Ohio State, Iowa, and then Indiana after that. They're a good team. At number 15, we have UConn, the UConn Huskies. They are 22-5 on the season. And yeah, they're still continuing to play their games. And like in the Big East, it really is just UConn. So they're going to keep balling when it comes to Big East play. Though they do play DePaul on the 25th. I will be at that game. So if you are in Chicago and you want to watch DePaul versus UConn, get some tickets and maybe we'll do a meetup or something. But yeah, UConn should win that game. But I think it'll be a fun game to watch in person. And at number 16, we have them Zags, the Lady Zags from Gonzaga. They have a record of 26-2. And yeah, they're in the 16th spot. So yes, Gonzaga has been very good this year. But the reason for, if you're like, why are they 26-2 when they're so low at number 16? Well, they're so low at number 16 because it's all about conference play. Gonzaga doesn't really have much in terms of high-level competition in the West Coast Conference. And so, yes, they have been very, very good, the best mid-major team in the country. But it's not likely that they'll move up this much. It's not likely that they'll move up from the 16th spot just because they're not really playing. They're playing other mid-majors, and that's not necessarily going to help them additionally in their seeding. Like probably the max that they'll be is a 16th ranked team. Though they didn't move up 1 spot from last week, I should say. Then we have Syracuse. Syracuse is 22-4 on the season, in the 17th spot, and they moved up 2 spots from last week. The orange is very good. They have Diasia Fair, who is just balling, and leading the charge for this team. For Utah, they're at number 18. Utah is still squeaking out a path in the top 25. Yes, they have 7 losses, which is a lot. However, if you look at the level of competition that they play against in the Pac-12, you just know that, like, it's warranted. Yes, Utah has had some games, quite a few games that they should have won that they lost. However, they're just looking very, very good on the season. And if I'm a team in the NCAA tournament, I do not want to be in the same bracket as Utah, because I just know Alyssa Peely, she show up in the biggest of games and she would light my team on fire. I'm just saying, you don't want to mess with Alyssa Peely. She's very, very good. Looking at number 19, we have Notre Dame, who dropped from last week. They're 18-6 on the season. The reason for the drop is because of their partially because of their loss to NC State, and also I think it was due to just the other teams just having a better performance last week than Notre Dame. Louisville dropped 2 spots as well. They are in the 20th spot. Creighton dropped 1 spot. Creighton is 21-3 on the season. We got West Virginia at number 22. They are 22-3 on the season. They moved up 2 spots from last week. And yeah, the Big 12 is like making some serious noise, likely in the NCAA tournament, in the top 25. They're looking good. They're looking good. And then rounding out the rest of the top 25, we got some more Big 12 women. We got Oklahoma at 18-7. The Sooners are doing their thing at the number 23 spot. Then we have Baylor, who just retired Brittany Griner's jersey, just had a really great win over the weekend. Played some defense over the weekend. They are 19-6 on the season. They did drop 3 spots from last week because overall they've had a rough going at it, though they did win their last game. All right, now let's take a look at the last team in the top 25, which is Princeton. Princeton is now 20-3 on the season, and yeah, they're likely going to stay in that spot because the Ivy League, I will say the Ivy League is pretty good. With Columbia also being a top team. But yeah, Princeton looks good. However, again, it's a level of competition overall that I think will not get them to be able to move up. Though Columbia does play Princeton soonish. And so, depending on if Princeton loses that game, I think they drop off the top 25. But if they win that game, I think they'll stay in the 25th spot. So that is a game to look out for, Princeton versus Columbia. All right, and let's look at the rest of the top 25. We have UNLV with 41 points. These are the teams who received votes. We have UNLV at 41, Fairfield at 28 votes. North Carolina at 4 votes, St. Joseph's at 4 votes, Mississippi State at 2 votes, and Tennessee at 1 vote. So those, yeah, that's the top 25, and then the others who didn't make the top 25. Let me know your thoughts on the top 25 below. Yeah, who do you think is going to stay where they are? Who do you think is going to move? And ultimately, where do you think the seeding will be when we get down to the NCAA tournament? Because that's what really matters. Are you going to be a 1 seed? Are you going to be a 2 seed? Are you going to be a 3 seed? Are you going to be a 4 seed? Like what's going to happen? Especially for that top 16 bank of teams. So yeah, that is what all the teams are hoping for, is to get the best seeding possible for the NCAA tournament, so they can make their epic run to the NCAA championship. All right, guys, that is the video. I do want to say thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please hit the subscribe button. And I will see y'all very soon. Until next time, guys. Bye-bye.